Hi everyone and welcome to Architecture Photography Tutorials. This tutorial is a Twilight focused image and we are going to just be going through and editing it. So we are already in Lightroom, so let's go ahead and get started. So I have about 20 photos here that I will be going through. You'll see why I have so many. There's a lot of different pieces that I'm going to want to put together to make this final image. So let's go through and start making some edits here in Lightroom. I always do like to make my edits in Lightroom initially. I think that that just is going to give you a better final product because you're working with the raw file. As you can see, I'm working with JPEGs here. That's just to speed up the loading and processing for the purpose of this tutorial. But if you're using Canon, Nikon, Sony, whatever, please do use the raw files as you're making these edits. So again, you want to be working with those raw files when you're in Lightroom. So let's go ahead and make a couple changes here. So you can see we have our histogram. It's actually not too bad, which is good. We have one little spike right there. So let's go ahead and just bring the highlights down maybe just a little bit here. Maybe minus 65. I think that puts us in a pretty good place. Maybe bump the shadows up just a little bit. I don't want to do too much. Again, just a little bit, maybe 25. And then let's just add a little bit of texture, a little bit of clarity, a little bit of dehaze. That might be too much. Maybe even just 5 there. A little bit of vibrance and a little bit of saturation. Again, down here, especially your presence is just a taste. I like working with the raw file, so want to make sure that I'm making some of those edits here in Lightroom instead of in Photoshop. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to sync these across these first 11 total photos. So I'm going to shift click and then click sync, and I have all of my settings synchronized and click synchronize. All right, and so then I'm going to come back here to the second one and see what that did for me. So this image is obviously a little bit darker than this one, which is a pretty good starting point. A couple things I like about this, I kind of like this blue here, maybe a little bit more. I do like how our highlights aren't as blown out here as they are there with the reds. But this image is a little bit too dark, so let's go ahead and let's maybe go up 0.5, maybe 0.75. Still a little bit too dark. So I think that that's good for this image. This one I think was pretty much the exact same exposure as our first image, so I shouldn't have to do much with this, which is great. And now you see here we're starting to do a little bit of flash work down here. Let's give these a little bit of pop. So I think that looks pretty good. That looks good. That looks good. Again, that's kind of for over here. Also lightens up the tree on the left. So again, using the flash to do a couple different things. Lightening up there. This one's great. Gives us some nice color and a light on the sign. Again, using the flash, bouncing it here, giving some extra light there. This one's similar, kind of focused more down a little bit on these seats there. Again, I don't think I need to make any changes to these, which is good. This one, I'm probably going to bump it up just a little bit. I'm going to probably use some of this over here. So maybe just bump it up, say maybe 0.35, see what that does. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, you never want to brighten these up so much. We are trying to build a Twilight image when this is done, so darkness will be beneficial. And so now these images here, 12 through 20, is really just adding people into the shot. So how do I want to add these people in when I get into Photoshop? And so that's what I'm going to be thinking about as I put this together. So I'm going to just sync the settings just to start with, because then that's going to give me some texture, clarity, dehaze, vibrance, so that way that all stays the same. I definitely don't want to go plus 0.35, so I'm going to take that away. That's not bad for these folks. Again, I like kind of how they're walking up there. This person's got a little bit maybe too much head bob going on. We got some people walking up the stairs here, so could potentially use those. I might even just, again, so it matches a little bit more Twilight-y, I might go down minus 0.25 here. Just to give it a little bit darker, a little bit more of a Twilight feel. And then I'm going to go ahead and sync this across. Again, this will at least give me a good starting point for these images. All right, so that was image 12. So image 13, person coming down the stairs. Something to think about when you're always doing these is, do you want people going up the stairs, down the stairs, or are they walking away from you, side to side? So just think about that as you're taking your photos on site, as you're going to be adding people in. You don't want everybody going in the same direction. So I do like how we're coming down the stairs there. Here, this one's pretty similar. It's just more open. Maybe a potential base layer there. Not a lot going on. Same with this one, just a little bit brighter. I might even bring this one down just a little bit more, minus 0.5. Maybe even bring the highlights on this one down, minus 80. So again, a lot of this is just kind of playing around to taste, find what works. I like, again, some people coming up the stairs there. Might bring this one down minus 0.5 and minus 80. Again, I want to have a little bit more of a Twilight feel. So that's good there. We got people up the stairs, down the stairs. These folks are on their phone, don't necessarily love that. This big group here is not bad. So I might go minus 0.5, minus 80. I'm just trying to match it all up. Again, some more people up and down the stairs looking at this. Not sure I'm going to use it, but we do have some nice color there, so we'll bring it in. We just took some pixels used on site, so not a big deal to add it in. Not sure why I have both of these here. Don't need them, so I will probably get rid of this one. So you can just go to remove photo, and we're just going to remove from Lightroom. We don't necessarily want to remove from the disk because then you're deleting it fully. And same thing, this one was maybe just a half a second earlier. These folks walking up the stairs, that's not too bad. We got her head hair in the way, but we'll see if maybe we'll use this one. So there we go. So now we have all of our images. Again, it doesn't take long, just some little tweaks to get them kind of refined. So let's go ahead and go Shift click select all. And we're going to go edit in, and we're going to open as layers in Photoshop. This is going to open them all as layers in Photoshop, and we can dive into the rest of the editing. So let's jump into Photoshop. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop. We have all 20 images, or 19 images now since we did remove one, all layered up. And the first thing I always want to do is select all of them. So Shift click, go to the top, go to edit, and go to auto align layers. And the reason I want to do this, and make sure it's set to auto there, is because I want to make sure that my camera didn't move at all, so that way all of my images are aligned, so that way when I start blending in all of my layers, that everything is nice and aligned and I don't have any weird either shadowing or just out of focus looking areas, because I'll know that everything is aligned here. Pretty stable tripod. It was a little windy, so we'll see. It looks like a little bit of movement. You can see kind of this little checkerboard here, so a little bit, so it's a good thing that we aligned everything. So now what I need to do is go through and figure out which of these is going to be my base layer. So starting at the top here, not bad. Things that I might want to take from this image, you know, I have all my lights on here, some good light here. This is maybe a little bit too bright. I think this is a little bit too blue as well up here. So don't think I want this one as my base layer, which is going to eliminate probably most of these here. And then here's a bunch of my flash layers. We'll go through and label them as we go. So that way, excuse me, if anything, we need to make some changes later, we'll have everything labeled. So I think this is now where we're starting to maybe get to something that we could use as a base layer. I know I'm going to probably want to use these people here, so that's always kind of a good starting point. Let's see. Let's go with this one. as our base layer. So image 14, and the reason is wasn't a lot of activity going on. While this is maybe a little bit hot through here, and this is maybe a little bit bright, I think this is kind of the startings of a Twilight image. So let's just call this base layer. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to start to add in all of the layers. As we go, start to add in some people. So let's see. So this one was, we had 2 people walking up there. That's a maybe. We have the person in red here. Again, that's a maybe. And one thing I did talk about in Lightroom is having kind of people going up and down the stairs. So something to think about as well. All right, so let's take this one because we have someone walking down the stairs right here, walking downstairs. We moved it, we labeled it. So let's get rid of all these eyeballs. We're not going to need those for right now. And we can see too if there's anything else that we see that we like. And there is a couple things here that I see that I like, but we'll get to that in here in a second. The first thing I want to do is add in our person walking down the stairs. So we're going to go Option, Add Layer Mask, and that's going to give us a black mask. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to press B for brush. I have a black brush right now. I want to click X so that way my brush is white. And for this, I want to make sure my opacity is at 100%. I'm blending in a person. And so then I'm just going to click and add in person coming down the stairs. And I think that's looking pretty good. So that looks good. We got our first person added in. We have a head here that we'll have to get rid of. That's not a problem. I'm sure that we have a shot somewhere where there's nobody there. All right, let's go to this next one. Let's see. So a couple things that I do like about this one is that these lights hadn't come on yet. I didn't notice that until just now. So I really like that because those are a little bit hot. So let's go ahead and move this one down. Actually, let's not do that yet. Let's go ahead and first thing I'm going to do again, an Option click, Add Layer Mask. And I'm just going to go ahead and fix in here. But you can see that those lights weren't on yet either, so no problem. We'll be able to address that here in a little bit. Right here. And then let's add in these 2 ladies walking up the stairs. One thing you'll notice, this is a little bit brighter than the previous image that we were working with, but that's again not a problem. We can blend this in nice and smoothly. And how we're going to do that is we're going to do Create New Fill or Adjustment Layer. We're going to scroll to Curves, and then we're going to click Option, and you can see how then this gives us this little box with an arrow, and that's basically clipping it to the layer below. And you can see you can do it all the way up, but we want it to clip just to the layer just below it because that's the layer we're working at. And then I'm going to slide this down if it'll let me. It's not, so we'll just use up here. So we have our curves, and we'll just drag it down, just make it a little bit darker so it blends in pretty seamlessly. I think that's probably pretty good there. So all we're doing excuse me, with this layer, you can see before, after, just blending it in so that way the exposure is exactly the same. Looks like we maybe went a little bit over on the sign here. So again, I can then paint with my black brush because again, we're just working with layers and just paint it out. But again, before we had the head there, after, now we've kind of added the people. Our exposure is right on, and as you can see, if I zoom out, it's starting to build a little bit of life into the photo by adding in our people walking down the stairs. And I might even kind of come in here, and again, I want to paint with a black brush because I want to just paint it out. I think her shadow's maybe just a little bit too defined there. So kind of tap in here, bring back maybe just a little bit of what we had before to include that light on. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Again, we've started to add in some people. We'll have to fix kind of some of these lights in there, but that's an easy fix later. Let's see. So for this one, a couple things that I do like about this one. Again, I think our lights are a little bit too hot over here, maybe even in the back. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new layer mask for this one. Again, option click. And I'm gonna take my brush at maybe 50%. I'm just gonna kind of come in here, and I need to make sure it's white because I have a black mask. I'm just gonna kind of come in here and just kind of start to paint this out, because I'm gonna paint it in later and have it be just a little bit more, I think, representative of how I want that to look. That's just a little hot. It's maybe a little hot in here too, so we can kind of paint in a little bit of this. I think that's looking pretty good. There's one over here too. So we'll have a little bit of work to do with some of these lights, but we'll get to that later. But you can see just kind of turning off all those lights. All right. Progress. Let's go to the next one. And we have some more people walking up the stairs, walking down the stairs. I like what we have already. Again, I like the colors and stuff up here too, so I don't think we're gonna need to use this one, so I'm gonna say not used. And I'm just gonna slide it to the top so that way it's out of the way. Let's see the next one. I did remember I liked having these folks walking up the stairs, so let's go ahead and add them in. So we can go option, click on add layer mask. And again, I wanna make sure my brush is at 100%. We have a black mask. I'm painting with white, so we're good. And I'm just gonna tap here where they were and just add them in. Again, I think that's maybe a little bit dark. Let's see, in the surrounding areas. So again, I can use my curves adjustment trick, add new fill layer curves, option click, adding it there. And then this one I'm gonna bring up. So the last one we brought down, this one we're bringing up. You don't wanna do too much. Again, you kinda gotta find that right balance. It's just a little bit. So again, before, after, color's a little bit different, but we'll be able to fix that as well as we move forward. So again, kinda continuing to make some progress, adding people in. And let's just kinda click here around, see what else we see. All right. So let's see here. You can see the difference with the lights too over here on the right hand side. Let's see if these actually were any better. Those are about the same. So that's a little darker, it's a little bit lighter. So a bunch of things here I want to use this one for. So we're going to call this people and lights. So I definitely want to add in these people here. Again, I liked having them in the foreground, kind of walking up the stairs. I like how these lights aren't as blown out as they were in the other image. So let's go ahead and, again, option, add layer masks. And then we have already our brush at 100. We're painting with white, and we're literally just going to just tap them in. And you can see how easily that blends in. And then again, we're gonna be able to do that over here as well, but maybe we wanna do 50% because we're just gonna kind of touch in the light a little bit. It doesn't have to be quite as crazy if we don't want it to. Let's see, I think there's some bleed there, so. See, to me, that's all just maybe a little bit too much. So I think that's kind of maybe a little bit better. And then we have here, we have the light going up, and this one I might do at 100%. see this goes up actually pretty far. You can just kind of brush all this in. I don't mind a little extra shadow kind of around here. Again, it's Twilight, so we can kind of just do the same thing over here. Just shift clicking. So shift click is great because it just creates a nice straight line. Again, you don't want to forget about underneath there. You want to make sure that all of this matches the brick, the lighting, the coloring. So it's kind of adding in some of this extra light, some of the Twilight feel by just shift clicking, brushing it in. So looking at those, looking at this, I do think I need to add in a little bit more there. So again, you want everything to match. It's a little bit bright for me, but I do think that it works. It's not too distracting. We'll see if it's something that we can fix maybe a little bit later as well. But we added in some folks here. We got our lights back here. So I think it's in pretty good shape. So again, slowly making progress. So we have our people, which is good. Gives the space some life, shows that there's lots of people around, things happening, etc. So a couple things that I need to fix for sure. I kind of like some of this blue up here. It's not too dark. But it's not overly distracting in terms of blown out highlights and some of this other stuff. So I think this is a layer that we can use to kind of do some filling in, and I'll show you how I'm going to use the gradient just to do that. So option, add layer mask. So the first thing you could do is just take a big brush at 100% and just kind of paint in. But you're not going to have like a smooth transition down. So let's go back. So I'm going to take my gradient. I have my linear gradient. So I press G for gradient, linear gradient, white to black. And I'm going to start at the top, and I'm just going to drag down to say maybe like right here. And you can see what that did. It just kind of created a gradient and darkens up the top of my image. Gives it a little bit more of a Twilight feel, which is absolutely fantastic. That's what we want, right? You don't want your image to be too bright because then it doesn't feel like Twilight, but just kind of that slow gradient fall off, I think worked really well. Let's take a look at the next one here. Let's see if there's anything here that we like. I do kind of like some of these extra colors that are happening. I think the pink pops a little bit more than our yellow did. So let's do option, add layer mask, take a brush. Don't want it too big. I had it really big from before. Maybe at 50%. And just kind of tap in. Just to get a little bit more kind of this pink color. And then maybe at 25%, because this image is a little darker, so just kind of brush in kind of some of the darkness here, get a little bit more color over there. So again, some progress, adding things in, just slowly piecing it together. Let's see here. So if you want to hide what you just did, you can click Shift and hide the mask. We can see I do like how some of the blues and stuff here stand out a little bit more. So again, I have my brush at 25%. I'm just gonna kind of brush in here. I think some of these colors are just a little bit more defined, which is really nice. So I think that's pretty good. All right. On to the next one. So now we're adding a little bit here with the flash. So option, add mask. And again, just very lightly, we can just kind of add in a little bit pizzazz here. I think that's maybe a little bit too harsh. So I think though the next one, yeah, that one. So, and then since I didn't do Option when I was clicking the mask, I can do Command I, and then that gives that, makes that happen. And again, I can just kind of tap in here and just kind of give this wall just a little bit of light. And I think that just looks nice. So we can group these together and say middle wall, we'll call it. And again, you can kind of see before, after. It's dark over there, there's not a lot going on. Just kind of brightens it up a little bit. So I think that looks pretty good. I like kind of what that's doing. Let's see what's next. All right, I got my camper down sign here. Same thing, Option, click, and I mean you can kind of sense a theme. I'm gonna just go into lighten mode here so I don't even have to worry about it. And I'm just gonna click until I like kind of how it is. And you notice how I didn't go all the way around. You can see as I zoom in, it's still a little darker, maybe in the corners. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to make it seem like there's a spotlight on that. So again, before, after, you can't even see the title. Now you can. I can even fade out there, maybe a little bit more. So that's good. Now you can see kind of popping up here in the front. Again, Option, click. You can keep it in normal mode, or you could just go to lighten mode. I'm going to change to 50% of my opacity, maybe make my brush a little bit bigger, and I'm just going to kind of tap along here as if there's like a little spotlight, and I think we're going to just keep moving around. We got the tree here. Let's see, before, after, kind of same thing. Option, click, go to lighten mode, because I don't want to impact anything else. Just kind of tap. Just make it stand out just a little bit. And again, if you think that you kind of missed something, you can go back. So say maybe this one here, maybe just add a little bit more kind of down there. Move on to the next one. Option, add mask, lighten mode. Just kind of tap in through here. Just adding in some of that color, some of that light. Option, add mask, lighten mode. I think that looks good. All right. Now on to the next one. Let's see. So a couple things that I do like with this. There's a little bit more going on back here, under here. Let's see. Over there. So this one has a really nice Twilight feel to it. You can see I have some blown out stuff, and some of the sky up here is too blue. But I do think that it's doing some nice stuff for me, so I'm going to go ahead and take some of this as well and add it. So Option, add mask. I might even bring my brush down to 25% because I'm just going to be very subtle with this, and I'm just going to start tapping in over here, just adding in a little bit more light. Same up and under here, just very gently. You could go to lighten mode if you wanted, so that way you don't have any of the bleed onto anything that you don't want. There was some extra light over here, which was nice. And we can kind of just tap around, again, getting some shadow there, just kind of make some of the areas maybe a little darker that weren't before. See, to me that's just a little bit too dark. I kind of like the light there, so we can bring that back. Up here, can add a little bit. We have a person there, so we'll have to deal with that. Kind of making some of these areas just a little bit darker, giving it a little bit more of a Twilight feel. I think I went a little too far here, so I can X that out. So zooming out, we're getting there. So again, before, after. Take my brush again. I think there's an opportunity here, maybe just darken things up a little bit around these folks. Again, you want it to have that Twilight feel, so let's check out the next one, see if that's going to do anything for us. This to me is just too dark. What I do like though is I think some of the lightness on our sign. So we can go to lighten mode. You can see what that's going to do, but then we go option click. I'm going to take the brush at 100% and I'm just going to paint in white here, and you'll see that all of these lights here just pop that much more. So again, just before, after, it's a really subtle difference, but again, it's these little things that just make your image that much better. Okay, so this one, I do like this, some things with this one as well. So we can get rid of our person here. So let's option click and just kind of brush in there. Let's see what else again, and then you can shift click on your mask to see if there's anything else that you want to bring back. Feel pretty good about this at this point. You know what? I kind of like how natural this looks down in here. So I might do 50% and just kind of brush it in just a little bit. I think that looks good. Again, just some things to give it that little Twilight feel. I think there's an opportunity here too to darken this. I want to be careful adding it in, so I'm going to do that later. So I think we've added in all of our layers, so now we kind of have some fixes and other things that we need to do. So a couple things that I notice is down here by these people, that light is out on the bottom step, the light is out there, the light is out there, it's on this whole one. So that's something that you will want to fix. Again, it's all of these little details that make a difference. So how do we want to do that? So for the folks here, I think, and this is why we work in layers, I'm gonna start hiding things again until I get to where they are. So they're right here. So I'm gonna want to fix that beforehand, because then I'm gonna layer them on top of it. So I'm gonna come here and I'm just gonna create a new layer. I'm going to zoom in, and a couple ways you can do this. One is to take your stamp and just line it up and go on over. So that worked pretty well. You can see a little bit didn't quite work at the edges here, so we're going to need to go pen tool. We're going to have to just pen around. Started to get a little bit of weird light there, but that's not a problem. So just make your pen tool all the way around, make selection, feather by 1. Again, S for stamp. Just make sure it's lined up. Good to go there. And then you can click over here. Same thing. And just bring it over. And so before, after, I mean, no one would be the wiser. And then if we add our people in, you just got to be careful. Now you have that. So we can just work around them. Just take our brush and just paint at 100% our light back in. And just all the way around. And then just right in between their legs, right? Don't want to forget that. And look at that, we just added in that light between those two layers. So we fixed that one. We have one right here. So let's go ahead and just add all these back in. And because I think the rest of these I'll show you another way that we can do it. So what we'll do is go Shift Command Option E, and that's going to flatten everything that we've done up to this point. And then I'm just going to take the pen tool. I'm just going to go around one of these lights. And I'm going to make the selection. So basically what I'm telling Photoshop is, hey, I have this whole layer here. I just want this selection. Then I'm going to do Command J. And all that did was copy that little piece. So now I can move it around and put it anywhere. And I know that I want to put it like right here. And then I can create a mask. Again, I'm just going to add a layer mask. I'm just going to brush it out. So a white mask, paint black at 100%. And obviously we don't need it over here. It's just there. So again, it's always better to grab a little bit extra as opposed to not enough. But look at that. Look how easy that was. So before, after, before, after. No one's the wiser. No one will ever know that that light was not working. And we can come back down here, or we can even stay on this layer and just do our stamp. So S for stamp, and then just kind of work our way across. Maybe make it smaller so we don't impact the sign at all, but again, you can see how a problem is somewhat easily fixed. So, you know, these last couple layers, we've just added in these lights. I know there's a few other areas that we're going to need to do it. So next to this girl here, add that in. Just kind of stamp it over. And we can just do the same thing right here. And you can see Command Z, when you make a mistake, got to make sure it's lined up right. And you can just kind of click it around. And you can use your pen tool if you want to be super, super precise next to things like those poles and stuff. That's up to you. And again, just kind of bring it in, make it look natural. That one's too high. So it's really just kind of a slow, steady process of building it out. And then one more. Make sure you got it lined up and just kind of, like I said, shift click. So kind of tedious work, but you can kind of see. I'm going to stop just because there's other things we need to focus on. You need to think about things like this little edge here. Again, we know that the light kind of goes over there. That edge there, so we know we have this, so brush, kind of brush it out so it's a nice harsh, crisp edge. You know, and again here, you could use your pen tool if you wanted to be like super, super precise in there. But again, zooming out, you can see how much progress we've made in just a little bit of time adding in those lights. Again, you want to deliver as clean and a good of image as you can to your client. So think about these things when you're trying to make some of these edits and fixes. So other things that I know I'm going to want to clean up for this one. Let's see. So let's create a new layer and go J for our spot healing brush. And so there's this here. So this is where I'm just gonna go in and just really kind of clean up some things that maybe don't look good. So there's kind of like some weird stuff going on here. Take your stamp anytime you overdo something. Go back to J for your spot healing brush. Like all this kind of stuff needs to go away. That, that. So this is where you kind of just go around with your spot healing brush, kind of fix stuff, clean stuff up, like right there, like all of these little things. There's obviously going to be some natural blemishes, but like that right there doesn't look great. Looks like some rust or something coming down. And unless you can get to a site like first day or something, you're often dealing with this kind of stuff. So again, go through, take your spot healing brush, come through, clean things up. I mean, you can even come in here if you don't like how these reflections look. All that. You can use your stamp as well. So I mean, even this. Just clean all that stuff up. Combination between maybe stamp tool, spot healing brush. Just clean it up as best as you can. Again, I can take my stamp here and just shift click over and just get it lined up so it looks good. And I'm just shift clicking and all of a sudden that's gone, and again, no one would ever know. So something like this over here, this is kind of a bigger problem. Sorry, see, all this stuff kind of distracts me. I'm gonna go back to J, spot healing brush. As you zoom out, just those things distract me. You have the thing to water the plants kind of in here too. So just do as much or as little as you think you need for your client. I like to really clean my images up so that way, you know, anything that's unnecessary isn't there. These are speakers, so I would want to keep those. But this sign, a couple options for it. We could crop the image, which we're going to need to do anyways because we have this lamp pole here, so I'm going to want to crop in a little bit. I think there's an opportunity to crop in from the bottom or the top. I don't think we necessarily need the edge of this building, so if I was to crop to, you know, here, I get rid of that sign. I might want to do a little bit of work on it though, just so I have it. And so again, I can kind of show you how to do that. So I'm going to take those two layers off right there. I'm going to get my pen tool out, and I'm just going to kind of come in here, make selection, Command J, and then I can use my move tool up here. I know what I just did. So then, you know, I could do something like this in here if I wanted to. And then I could get my stamp out as well and just kind of raise this up and just kind of click over, blend these two in. Again, you could be precise with your pen tool so that way you kind of keep that line if you wanted to. Let's see here, get this here and just kind of come up. Then mask brush, say at 50% or at 100%, or yeah, let's do 50% for up here, black, and just kind of start to do this because all we're worried about is this sign here. We don't need it. So I don't think that looks very good, so let's just hide that and we'll just crop it later. But you kind of see how you can work to fix different things in the image. So that's how you can kind of use your copy or move tool. There's some work that I could certainly do to fix that. I'm not going to, partly for the purposes of the tutorial. So one thing that I think this image is coming together really well. I still think this is a little bit too bright up here. So we can take another curves. And all I'm going to look at is, again, kind of the top section here. And I'm just going to come in the middle, just kind of drag it down just a little bit. Maybe like that. I'm going to do Command I. I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to be painting with a white brush. So I'm going to come over here. I can click X. I'm just going to do 50%. I'm just going to start to paint this in. And I think that's good. Just kind of darken it up just a little bit. Again, we have kind of a Twilight image, so I think it makes sense if we're just a little bit darker. But I think that's pretty good. So we've made a lot of changes. We blended in some people. We fixed all of the lights on the stairs so that way those look good. We removed some things as well that we didn't need using our healing brush and our stamp. So I think this image is just about ready. So I'm going to finish it up. I'm going to do another curves adjustment layer. I'm going to come up here to my preset. I'm going to go to linear light. You can play around whichever one you like best. Again, that's just going to add a little bit of contrast to my image, so darken up the areas that it needs to, just again make it pop just a little bit more. I'm then going to go Shift Command Option E. I'm going to do Command J to make a copy of that. I'm going to go up to the top and go Filter. I'm going to go Other, High Pass, and we get this weird grayscale. No problem. Click OK. You can either go Overlay, Soft Light, Hard Light, Vivid Light, Linear Light. I'm going to do Soft Light. And all this is doing is just sharpening up my edges. If I zoom in before, after, just kind of crisps up the edges, which I think just again enhances the photo. And so we can go back here. Let's just group some stuff. Let's go here and here, and let's just go group from layers. We'll call these fixes. And then we'll group these layers and we'll call these people and lights. And I just want to show you what we started with and where we ended up. So this is what we started with. It's fine. Again, it's too bright up here. It's not really very Twilighty. You know, as we start to add in some lights and some people, you know, it's giving it not only that people activation, but it's giving it a little bit more of a Twilight feel. We're adding some enhancements to the photo here with some added light that we did with the flash pop here as well, so you can see the sign. Looks like there's a spotlight on it. And then again, we cleaned up, we added it, we fixed all these lights, we cleaned up a bunch of this, you know, junk that we don't need in the photo, and we added a curves layer to kind of give it a little bit more contrast and pop. And then at the end here, we sharpened it up. So a lot of work to get us to here, but I think we did a great job putting this one together, making a nice little Twilight photo for our client. So let's go ahead, head back into Lightroom and finish it up. And remember, always save your images. If you have this many layers as a PSB, that's what I do. It ensures that if you do need to come back and work on it later, you have all of these layers. And then you don't have to worry about file size. So again, file, save as, PSB. Let's head back into Lightroom and finish this image up. Okay, so here we are back in Lightroom. We did a lot of work in Photoshop to get to this point. I think we have a really nice looking image now. A couple last things I know that I want to do here in Lightroom. We definitely need to crop, so let's go ahead and do that first. I can come up a little bit, and I can come down a little bit as well. I'm going to shift to the right because again, I want to get rid of that sign. Let's see, I can probably do a little bit more, make sure everything's all centered. So I think that's good, which is nice. So now we've kind of cropped it in a little bit, made things a little bit tighter. And I do want to make sure my vertical lines are vertical, so I'm going to go to guide. You can click vertical. I don't think that looks great. We can try auto, which auto's not bad. That looks pretty good. Let's try guided just to see. And so guided is basically us saying, hey, Lightroom, this is a vertical line. And I like to do lines that are as close to the edge of the image as possible because that's where a lot of your distortion is going to come in. So I'm going to use this window framing right there. And so then that's just going to give me, now I know, 2 straight lines. But I want to make sure that this is level as well, since this is kind of a 1 point. Can do that. We could do another one if we wanted to, maybe here. Let's see, I want to make sure I got it right, so I can even just go to right there. And there we go. So before, after, cropping, again, making sure my lines are all vertical and my horizontal lines are horizontal. And I think that's pretty good. So we cropped in here and did that. If you needed to make some last adjustments, if you think that maybe it's a little bit too dark, you could always kind of brighten it up a little bit that way. You could adjust your highlight, shadows, anything here. Last changes that you needed to in Lightroom. So before, after, I actually kind of like that a little bit. So with that, we went through a lot in Photoshop. Hopefully this was helpful and useful for you as we put together this Twilight image. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to email us. If there's other topics you want us to focus on, let us know. Thank you for watching Architectural Photography Tutorials. Take care and talk to you soon.